Hey, thanks for tuning in to Twang and Bang. This rifle right here has been in more videos than any other firearm that I own. It's my Bravo Company 11.5-inch 5.56 SBR, and it started out life as a black rifle before Adaptive Graphics did this awesome water transfer camo for me sometime last year. Before that, I decided to try a long-term test of the Sharps Rifle Company balanced bolt carrier and reliable right here. This has been sitting inside of this rifle for about a year and a half, and it's seen about 3,000 rounds, every single one of them suppressed, not just with this rugged razor that's underneath this suppressor wrap here, but a bunch of different ones that I tested and different ones that I own. And so by the time I got to SHOT Show this year, I thought that's probably enough testing. It's probably a good time to do my video on it. But then I saw the brand new XPB that Sharps Rifle Company introduced this year. It's basically the same thing with diamond-like carbon coating, which is much more durable. It has a lot of the same lubricity. And it's what's coming up next on Twang and Bang. The Extreme Performance Bolt Carrier Group is an evolution for Sharps Rifle Company, adding diamond-like coating to the balanced bolt carrier they introduced several years ago with some minor changes in contact surfaces. The black BCG is the brand new XPB, and the NP3 finished BCG in the front is something I've run in that 11.5-inch Bravo Company SBR since November of 2015. If you're familiar with milspec BCGs, you can see that these not only have different finishes than milspec, but they vary quite a bit from standard dimensions. What you can't readily see is that both the bolt and the bolt carrier are machined from S7 tool steel, which is then shot, peened, and heat treated, then coated in diamond-like carbon in the case of the new XPB. It's not all proprietary geometry, however. The gas key, cam pin, and extractor are 4130 phosphate-coated steel to keep them proper mil-spec, along with the ejector springs, gas rings, and firing pin retaining pin. This makes replacement of these wear parts easily accomplished with spares in an armory or in an AR enthusiast toolkit. Despite these differences in geometry, Sharps BCGs weigh the same as standard mil-spec BCGs, allowing the use of standard recoil springs and buffers. The bolt carrier group you see disassembled in front here is from Bravo Company Manufacturing. They're one of the few manufacturers that build their entire bolt carrier group 100% to the technical data package specifications. That means that all the parts are not only mil-spec in dimension, but also in material as well as methods of manufacture. It makes it a perfect contrast to the Sharps Rifle Company bolt carrier group because very early on in the design process, Sharps decided that they were going to vary from the TDP anywhere they saw the opportunity to improve the reliability of an AR-15. Let's start by looking at the contact patches of the bolt carriers. On the Sharps, the contact patches in the front come farther down the side. In fact, it extends all the way to the front of the bolt carrier. On the standard bolt carrier, you have a much smaller contact patch in the rear, and it doesn't extend all the way to the front. There's something else you need to notice about the contact patches on a standard bolt carrier. They're only on the front. You have these raised contact patches in the front that do not extend, that do not have an equivalent on the back. The back of the Sharps bolt carrier actually does have contact surfaces that correspond to the ones in the front. In fact, the external diameter of the rear of the Sharps bolt carrier is about 0.05 of an inch greater than a standard bolt carrier. That is part of the secret to the balanced bolt carrier to help it reduce carrier tilt. What is carrier tilt? Well, gas hits the gas key in a standard bolt carrier, and when it does, it puts pressure this direction. And because of tolerances that are built into the receiver and receiver extension of an AR-15, it can actually move a little bit that way. And it'll bounce. It'll bounce off the bottom and it'll kind of work its way down the receiver extension that way, work its way this way. That's very inefficient, lots of friction, and it's actually pretty abusive to your receiver. With the extra contact patches in the front and the rear of the Sharps balanced bolt carrier, you get a straighter movement into the receiver extension and back. This not only reduces friction, it also improves the efficiency of the mass that's in the bolt carrier in actuating and camming over the bolt. So it's going to increase the reliability if it's dirty. That's the idea anyway. You get increased reliability moving backwards and forwards, and you get increased reliability because you have a greater amount of force that's able to be exerted on camming the bolt over. This is easiest to demonstrate at the back of these receivers. This is your standard milspec bolt carrier. This is the Sharps bolt carrier. Look at how much play there is between the rear of a standard bolt carrier and the inside of the back of the receiver. And this is the Sharps. There's barely any play at all. There's enough for reliability purposes, and that's it. This is going to have a much straighter travel out of the back of the receiver and down the receiver extension than a standard bolt carrier. Things get really weird once we get up to the bolt. The Sharps bolt is obviously very different in the lugs. They are angled, and there's an important reason why. Any bolt, I don't care who makes it, you run it long enough, you put enough rounds through it, it's going to break in probably one of two areas. First area of weakness is obviously where the cam pin hole is. There's the least amount of material in the bolt right here, but it's also receiving a lot of stress because that cam pin is cranking back and forth on the bolt with every time the action cycles. The lugs take stress from slamming into the chamber, and if there's any kind of dirt or debris in the way, it puts stress rearward on the lugs that could cause them to break. And they also get lateral stress. When that cams the bolt over, any kind of gunk that's in the chamber is going to put lateral stress on every single one of those lugs. That's why the Sharps bolt is angled not only across the front this way, because that reduces the amount of pressure that's on the front of the lugs. Any kind of junk that might be in there has a place to go. But if you look carefully, you can see they're actually angled this way as well, because as that bolt cams over, with the exception of a few lugs that are needed for a proper alignment, but as that cams over, you're going to get a chance for the debris to move forward, move out of the way. So there's a lot less forward stress on every single one of the lugs, and there's a lot less lateral stress on all of the lugs. In spite of that, Sharps also decided to go with S7 tool steel. That's where they made a decision to depart from TDP materials, because S7 tool steel, when properly heat treated, it is a stronger bolt than a Carpenter 158 bolt. So combined with the bolt carrier having better efficiency and actually putting greater forces inside the action of the bolt itself, you have tapered lugs that reduce the amount of pressure that they're under both as they hit the chamber and as they cam over, and a stronger material. That's why they call this the Reliable. And you could actually buy these separately and put these in any bolt carrier. The idea being between the material and the design of the lugs, you're going to have a more reliable bolt than a mil-spec bolt. The most obvious difference with the XPB is its diamond-like coating. It's extremely tough, hence the diamond-like name, but it also has built-in lubricity, especially when compared to the phosphate coating on a standard BCG. I pulled this XPB carrier group straight out of the box and dropped it into my SBR completely dry to see how well it would function without lube. About a dozen viewers put over 1,000 rounds of mixed ammo through the gun, and though I did get a few stovepipes with weaker ammo, NATO pressure ammo seemed to run just fine. I'm going to use dry patches in my fingers to see how easily this diamond-like coating is to clean. Remember, this is after over 1,000 rounds suppressed in an 11.5-inch SBR with no lube. As expected, the bolt carrier was super easy to clean. Carbon fouling wiped right off anywhere I could manage to get that patch. Comparing it to the unused XPB, it would be impossible to tell the difference except for the carbon still in the logo and a few spots I missed with my first pass. The bolt required a bit more finger pressure to clean, but the fouling still came off everywhere with just a dry patch except for the bolt tail, which is notorious for developing caked on carbon. Cleaning with some Rand CLP and a brush took care of the rest, and though the XPB performed fine without lube, it's getting a full coat before going back into my favorite AR. If you were to Google Sharps Rifle Company Reliable, you'll see they had a recall about a year and a half ago. It was right at the start of my long-term testing of their balanced bolt carrier group. They had a batch that was improperly heat treated and they were breaking. And of course, everybody was super hard on a product with the word reliable in the name that wasn't being reliable at all. In fact, it was being much less reliable than a standard mil-spec bolt. They fixed the problem, they identified what it was, and they got new bolts out to everybody free of charge. The interesting thing about the fact that that recall is out there is that if anybody had problems with their reliable bolts since then, I would think that it would be all over the internet. People would be saying this is still junk. Ha ha ha, reliable, reliable. It's not. But you don't see that. I've looked very, very hard for any reports of people having problems since the recall with their reliable bolts, and I can find none. I've had no problems with thousands of rounds through this bolt carrier group myself, but of course, I don't have the money, the time, or the inclination to truly durability test anybody's bolt or bolt carrier. I think I got enough rounds to say that I'm not having a problem with their design. I've seen enough reports from other people, long-term testing, to think that it seems to be doing exactly what Sharps Rifle Company intended, which is why I expect that we'll see the same results with their brand new XPB. If you want to learn more about it, be sure to click the link in the video description. Be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. You can see the links right here. And be sure to click right here to subscribe so you can catch my next videos on bows, guns, and other cool stuff. I really appreciate you watching Twang and Bang, and I hope to see you next time.